Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters, and today I will be reviewing Barbecue Party following on from the family playthrough last week, which I will link down below. And I just want to reiterate something really that I mentioned in the Jumanji review, that obviously a board game channel reviewing something like this that isn't a gamer's game is probably a bit self-destructive, but I want to do it because, well, we featured it on the channel because it's one of Alex's games that he enjoys, and if he enjoys it, then there will be countless other children who do, and basically that makes it relevant. That makes it a game that is worth featuring in my view, because just dismissing it because it's a kids game would be a bit snobbish or elitist in my view. So just because it isn't a game that particular general gamers would probably want to ever acknowledge its existence, then doesn't mean it doesn't warrant a place in the hobby. So as ever, the reviews will cover the same 5 categories as always, so let's dive straight into art style and theme. Now, obviously, there's not a huge amount to talk about with Barbecue Party. The art style is quite fun. You had to stick your own eyes on the food, so Alex and I had quite a bit of fun sticking it on, trying to give some crazy googly eyes and things, and you know, that was good fun. And the theme of it is a bit strange. I mean, you know, if you're having a barbecue, the last thing you want is all your food falling everywhere, but you know, it's not a big point score on the art and theme, but I do like the fact you can put your eyes on and things. And going into the component quality, it's actually surprisingly good. I mean, they picked this game up for £6, and you know, the food is pretty thick plastic. It's not as flimsy as you would expect. The barbecue has a good weight to it and feels decent. I mean, the cards are just sort of cheap cards, but for £6, it's surprisingly good. It really did exceed my expectations when they waltzed in and announced that they bought this game. In terms of accessibility, obviously it's going to be a massive point scorer for it on this, because it's incredibly easy to learn, it's incredibly easy to set up and put away, and it's incredibly cheap. So there are absolutely no hurdles for anyone to get into the game at all. They have rules for younger children, so they only have to get 3 bits of food instead of 4, for example. So yeah, accessibility, as you would expect with a kids game, is really, really strong for this. And you know, when you've got other games like Mousetrap that do take a bit of setting up and putting away, this compares favourably in that regard. On to replayability, and this is probably where it will struggle, because I think it's got quite a narrow target, really, because the barbecue, certainly at the point where Alex is now, the barbecue isn't sensitive enough for us, I would say, in that we got quite lucky when we recorded the playthrough, and that I think it went off 3 times over the course of the video, and then we've played it 3 or 4 times since, and it's maybe gone off once. We quite often get through the game without it going off, and that may well be that I'm setting the barbecue up incorrectly, because there is a set sequence that you have to have the clasp in one position when you push it down, then you move it to the other way, and if you get that wrong, then it won't go off, and it may be that I'm doing that, but it does get to a point where if you're good at the game, it probably won't go off, whereas if you're playing it with people who are too young and it goes off regularly when it's their go, they're obviously then going to get bored of the game really quickly if they are setting it off and losing and getting upset all the time. So you really need to get it in that sweet spot where it has the threat of going off, but isn't going off so often as to ruin the game. So it isn't as replayable as other games that we've featured, such as Jumanji and Mousetrap that I've mentioned before. And going on to the gameplay, it is very, very simple. It is basically Buckaroo if you're my generation and grew up with Buckaroo, but just with putting food on and off a barbecue instead. And that's all you really need to know. If it is very fun when the barbecue goes off, it is always exciting when that happens and there's no getting away from it. But beyond that, there isn't really a lot to the game. And yeah, I don't think there's much else to say really. I mean, the Joker card just means you can put a bit of food on or take a bit of food off at your choice. It doesn't really change the formula up, it just basically gives you a free bit of food. So, yeah, it's not a big point scorer for its replayability and its gameplay, so it is going to get the lowest score on the channel so far. It is going to get probably a 5.5, maybe going up to a 6.5 if you've got like kids who are, I would say probably around 5 or 6 is probably a good spot for this game. But it depends on their motor controls and things, because obviously you can get older kids who are a bit clumsy that might set it off, and younger kids who are more precise. But that is my thoughts on Barbecue Party, and so thank you very much for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Bye bye now.